The water was still. The sun hung low over the lake, painting the sky in blood orange and ash gray. I stood at the edge, pole in hand, silence in my heart. That's when the notice came. $500 fine for unauthorized recreational activity. Just for fishing in my backyard. But they didn't know who they were fining. They didn't know I'd already started the paperwork, the deed, the bid. Because by the time their next violation letter arrived, I wouldn't just be a resident. I'd be the owner of the lake. And the ban? It wouldn't be on me. It would be on them. I moved to Willow Creek Estates for the peace. A quiet, tree-lined subdivision just outside Atlanta. A place where families walked dogs, kids played soccer, and life felt safe. I'd worked hard, 20 years in logistics, saved every penny, bought my first home at 42, a modest 2-bedroom with a view of the lake. That lake became my sanctuary. After long shifts, I'd sit on the dock, line in the water, listening to the frogs in the breeze. No one bothered me. At first, then the HOA notices started. Little things. Grass too long, trash can out on a Tuesday. Then came the fishing ban. Private property, they said. No recreational use without prior approval. I submitted a request. It was denied. No reason given. I saw others, white neighbors, grilling, kayaking, even swimming at night. No permits, no fines, just laughter echoing across the water. I filed a complaint. The board met behind closed doors. When I asked to attend, I was told, "We're handling it." But nothing changed, except the fines, $250, then $500, then a lien on my property. I wasn't breaking rules, I was breaking patterns. A black man enjoying his own backyard too freely, too visibly, too unapologetically. That's when I started digging. Found out the lake wasn't actually owned by the HOA. It was a private parcel, taxed, auctioned every decade. The next sale, 6 months away. I didn't see a lake anymore. I saw leverage. I emptied my savings, sold my second car, took out a small loan from a community credit union. I needed $187,000, not for a house, for a lake. The auction was held online, quiet, almost forgotten. The HOA didn't bid. They didn't think anyone would. To them, the lake was just part of the scenery. To me, it was justice in liquid form. When the gavel fell, I got the deed. Registered under my name. Legally, fully mine. I didn't celebrate. I drafted a notice. Effective immediately, recreational access to Willow Creek Lake is suspended for all residents of Willow Creek Estates. No exceptions, no appeals, not a single kayak, no fishing, no paddle boards. The HOA went ballistic. They called lawyers, called the county, called the news. "This is absurd," one board member shouted at a town hall. "He's holding us hostage." I stood up, calm, measured. You fined me for fishing, for sitting quietly on my property, enjoying nature. You ignored my requests. You dismissed me. But you never once questioned why Mr. Thompson could host a fireworks party on the dock, or why the Petersons could moor a $60,000 boat without permits. Now, the rules apply to everyone. Or no one. Social media exploded. Local news picked it up, then national. #Lake Justice trended. People called me a villain. Others called me a hero. But most asked the same question. Why was he fined in the first place? The county launched a civil rights review. Found a pattern. Over 5 years, 92% of fines for aesthetic violations went to non-white residents. One was fined for excessive cultural music during a family cookout. Another for unapproved yard art, a handmade Juneteenth display. The HOA scrambled. Issued apologies, offered to negotiate. I didn't budge, because this wasn't about a lake, it was about power. Who gets to relax? Who gets to belong? Who gets to be left alone? The day they showed up with signs, "Open the lake. This is community property." I was waiting, cameras rolling, reporters on the shore. I walked out in a simple shirt, the deed in hand, and stood at the water's edge. "This lake," I said, loud enough for all to hear, "is not a symbol. It's not a playground. It's not a tool for exclusion. It's a mirror. And right now, it's reflecting who you really are." Silence fell. One woman stepped forward. Mrs. Delaney, 70, lived 3 doors down. She'd never spoken to me before. Now, tears in her eyes, she said, "I didn't know it was this bad." That moment cracked something open, not just in her, in all of us. Within 48 hours, the HOA voted to abolish all recreational fines, implemented bias training, invited community oversight. And me? I didn't lift the ban. Not yet. Instead, I proposed a new rule. Access would be restored only when the HOA funded a youth fishing program for underserved families in the area. Black, brown, immigrant, foster kids, free rods, free lessons, free access. They agreed. Today, the lake is open, but it looks different. Kids of every color cast their lines from the dock. Laughter echoes where silence once ruled. The sign at the entrance? Willow Creek Lake, community access restored through accountability. I still own it, but I don't control it. Not really. The community does all of it. They thought fining me would make me disappear. Instead, I made the problem too big to ignore. This wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. Because racism doesn't always wear a hood. Sometimes it wears a polo shirt and sits on a homeowner's board. It hides in fines, in rules, in quiet exclusions that feel small until they break you. But here's what they forget. Dignity is patient. And when it rises, it doesn't beg. It buys the lake. So ask yourself, where in your life are the invisible fences? The quiet penalties? The rules that don't apply to everyone? And more importantly, what's your lake? Because sometimes justice isn't given, it's purchased. And it starts with one person, refusing to stop fishing.